Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson, and welcome to Construction Project Management Tips. Today we're going to be talking about coaching and mentoring and how that can help in leading a company to higher levels of success. When I think about mentoring and coaching, I very often think about coaches from sports teams, and a couple that come to mind when I was putting this together. One was John Wooden. He was actually the coach of the UCLA Bruins basketball team, and very successful coach. He managed to win 10 NCAA titles in his last 12 seasons, something that's never been done and never been done since or before. And he had many great players that came out of that. A couple come to mind, but there were lots of them: Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton. And the thing that always strikes me about John Wooden is that whenever his players were interviewed years after the fact, they always considered him to be the coach, but lifelong it seemed to help them in everything that they did, some of the principles and practices that he taught. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the later part of this video. Another one that comes to mind is Pete Carroll of the Seattle Seahawks. And one of the things I like about Pete Carroll is the way he really wants his players to be their best. And his philosophy is not that you have to win, it's that if everybody is performing at their best, it's going to really gel for individuals long term in their careers. They're going to be extremely satisfied with their accomplishments. Winning comes as a result of that. He won basically the NFL championship with the Seahawks in the mid-90s, and of course the national championship as well in college. So one of, I think, 3 coaches that have been able to do that. And I think it's really outstanding the way that his players talk about him and the way that I think he's helped people to be better, not just in football, but in their overall lives and careers. And I think that's have a long-term impact. In fact, when I first watched Ted Lasso, I was thinking, this must be modeled after Pete Carroll. It wasn't when I looked into it, but I wasn't the only one looked into it. I saw a lot of that on in Google and some of the different sites that I went to trying to get to the bottom of who Ted Lasso was modeled after. But at any rate, mentoring and coaching. From an organizational perspective, I want to talk about this. In construction, some of the origins of apprenticeship and mentoring, early mentoring, comes from apprenticeship. And of course, in construction, we don't get anything done without trades. And so trades are very much apprenticeship based. And a lot of that aspect comes understanding that somebody is new to something, they don't know everything about it. So there's got to be some sort of training that takes place. And so they actually have what they call a journey person, and they have apprentice, they have a master journey person. And so there's different levels during people's careers, and they move up through that. And it's understood that an apprentice needs journey people to learn from. And in many cases, those people are referred to as mentors for that apprentice when it's done well. It's not always done that well. And that's the other thing. There's quite a dichotomy in business and in construction businesses of how well people get mentored and how well they get coached. And a mentor is really somebody that's passing their experience to someone else. And so in other words, they have to have walk that line. They have to have learned that craft, those skill sets, and then they're willing to help share that with others, their experience. It helps to motivate and empower others and engage others when they have a mentor that they admire, especially when they work closely with them, because there's a mutual respect when that happens. And that can be really helpful because, when you're learning something, as Anders Ericsson would say in Peak, a deliberate practice, the book he wrote, deliberate practice, trying to learn something, it's not easy. It really pushes you to your upper levels, and you need feedback. So mentoring is kind of setting the example or the tone for what you can accomplish, and being able to see somebody that is actually operating at a much higher level than yourself at their craft, and being able to provide advice and share some experience with them. So a mentoring sort of position is more one of demonstrating, showing, and sharing experiences with someone else. Coaching, coaching is a little bit different where we're working on specific goals and you're providing timely feedback. So a coach doesn't necessarily have to be currently doing what you're trying to do. They could have done it in years past. They could have learned the craft of coaching in this particular area and know about this subject really well and how to get the best out of people and individuals and set targets and set goals. And in sports, you've got a coach and they're trying to set you up so that you can practice and you can improve and you can get better, and they're providing feedback. And it has to be timely feedback. That's the deliberate practice part. You don't want to be getting feedback way down the road. But if you think about managers and leaders within organizations, if you have employees, you can coach a lot of your employees. It's not just setting a financial target and you must meet this financial target, figure it out whatever way you need to do it. It's also providing some timely feedback and helping that individual to get better at what they do. In a work environment, it's about providing proper training for that individual. It may not be something that manager or coach could particularly do, but they would set that up to ensure that gets done. And a coach asks a lot of questions so that they can better surmise where the root cause or root problems are, so they can better devise a potential pathway so that individual can reach the targets, reach the goal. But it's also, if you're a really good coach working with employees, they should sense that you really want them to be better and you want to help them get to be better. They shouldn't sense that you're just trying to berate them. It shouldn't be personal in a negative connotation. It should be helping to get them better engaged and to be watching them to see how they do. So mentoring, you're kind of sharing your experience, and you may be demonstrating what you're doing or what your past has done, and you may be discussing those things and giving potential insights into that. Coaching, you're really kind of into the weeds and you're providing direct feedback and you're setting targets and goals and working very, very closely with those individuals. So some of the qualities, and again, they overlap, and I can look online and you can see different definitions and different takes on all of this, but definitely there'll be some overlap and there'll be some disagreement in it, but you're willing to share knowledge. To be a good mentor, if you're really into it as a mentor, because we'll even talk about some mentors don't even know they're a mentor to others. Willing to share knowledge. In other words, it's not this, or, well, don't ask me, I don't want to tell you or show you. You got to just figure it out yourself. Positive role model. Well, pick your mentors well, right? Pick your mentors well. So you want somebody that definitely demonstrates that they're a positive role model, and they should be passionate about what they do, enthusiastic. Otherwise, it's kind of deflating if you're listening to somebody that really doesn't even like what they do. They just happen to have gotten good at it. Meets personal and professional goals, provides guidance, values others' opinions. So yeah, because that's usually for somebody that got into that position, they would have had a growth mindset, looking for others' ways of doing things and getting better. Should be able to motivate others. Good listener, so you need to be able to describe and discuss what maybe your issues are, and they should be able to listen to that so then they can draw on their experience and provide some insightful viewpoints. And they advise, but not expect the exact advice to be taken. Obviously, if you're really spending time as a mentor with somebody, you would expect that they listen to you and they respect what you're saying. But if they're not paying any attention, then what's the point at some jurisdiction in those conversations? But at the same time, you're not instructing them exactly what they need to do. You're giving some latitude there that your experience may be different than what they're actually going through. So how do they adjust? How do they pivot? How do they respond to that is up to them. Respected by colleagues and is interested in helping others to succeed. Okay, so I've been involved with a lot of companies over the years, and we've had placement programs, and at one point I was looking after this program that we had with this particular company. The company was fantastic to work with, but you know what? Even the company recognized that placing some students with some individuals, not a good idea. Why was that? Because they did really want to have mentoring take place, but they learned also that just because somebody's really good at what they do for them doesn't mean they're going to be a good mentor. So I don't think it's the best thing when a company says everybody that's been here longer than 10 years is going to have two people that are new coming on board be mentors to them. Some of those individuals, they may turn off those people that the mentees because they don't want, that's not their thing. They just want to do their thing. They don't want to be lose their focus on what they're doing. Others, on the other hand, they're wonderful. And those students that were fortunate enough to get those really good mentors, they really enjoyed it. And I can remember having discussions with the VP of HR and going through different things and say, yeah, no, this one, we're not going to do this individual again. It's just not right for them. They're great at what they do. We respect what they do, but mentoring's not their thing, or at least it's not their thing yet, right? Maybe a few more years, they'll look at things from a different perspective, but it's not their thing yet. But this individual, we can look at our own company, and they've mentored people to high positions. And we talk about internal labor markets, how people move and grow within a company. This person has helped many people that are now in higher positions to them. That person doesn't want to leave that position they're currently in. They probably could have. They had the skill sets, but they enjoyed what they do. So those are some examples of mentoring and the qualities of a good mentor. Now, of a coach, again, all of it is respectful. But a coach, you're getting more into getting them to do things, giving feedback. And sometimes, feedback, how you deliver it is very important. So the old coaches of the past that maybe were disrespectful or, not really what we would want to or expect in today's work environment. We wanted to have respect for people. And so qualities of a good coach is respectful, but giving the feedback that the individual needs to learn and grow. So not pulling away from giving negative feedback. You got to be able to coach them in the right way. But at the end of the day, if you do it well, that individual feels you've got their back and that you're trying to make them better. It's really going to help lift that individual up, engage them, and motivate them in what they do. And in construction today, this is where we fall down. We don't have enough engagement of our people. And we have projects where we have trade partners and vendors and a whole swath of different entities. And we've got to be able to integrate and engage and collaborate and motivate people within those groups that don't even work with us directly. It's important to really figure out systems and ways to better engage those parties. And so I digress when I get into lean construction methodologies and respect for people, but this is an underlying theme that feeds into overall systems and processes to make this better. So it's definitely, you've got to know your employees' strengths and weaknesses. You got to know what they're really good at, not what they need to improve on, and then you got to work with them towards goals. That's the goal-oriented side. You got to be focused when you're with those individuals. If you're kind of doing things and, what do you want now? You're bothering me, sort of thing. That's not going to be helpful for those employees. So if they feel that you're interested, and there's a lot of research on this, even when employees get negative feedback, if they feel that you're interested in what they're doing, they really are attuned to that, rather than just being ignored or not getting any feedback, or getting, of course, feedback that isn't respectful, right? Optimistic and realistic at the same time. So if you want somebody to learn and grow, well, you can't set the bar that they feel it's impossible for them to reach. You have to be realistic about it, where they are currently at and where you can get them to move. Now, they might have differing views. They don't believe they can go that far. Well, then that's another coaching aspect to help them believe more in themselves, and to help yourself remove some of the roadblocks that might be in their way, encourage them, give them the proper training. If it's not training you can do yourself, ensure that they're getting the proper training, and provide support along the way. So you're really trying to find ways to motivate others. And as in the employment world, where you're actually trying to reach higher level goals in construction, we have to accomplish this project in this budget in this time period. This is what the client values. safety requirements, all of these different constraints that we're working in, yeah, you do have to be assertive about things too. You can't be all wishy-washy. You have to be confident, have self-efficacy in what you do so that you deliver it in the right way. So these are qualities of a good coach. Can you have a mentor and they don't even know they are acting as one? I would say yes. There's certain authors that have written really excellent books that have done extensive research in particular areas. You've seen that probably on some of my other videos. Successful individuals that you aspire towards. It could be somebody that from the past, it could be somebody currently, people you work with, somebody that it's a higher level that has that. Maybe you don't have that connection with them, but you can observe, you can watch how they run a meeting, you can take certain things in, and you can definitely learn from them and people you know. And that can be helpful, selecting the right mentors. If you don't have one, I think it's something that you should perhaps think about from that perspective, even if somebody doesn't agree to it. Even myself at a certain point, I guess about 8 years ago, I didn't find that, where I worked, that there was somebody that I could really, they had pretty much retired at that stage, that I could really look towards as a mentor. And then I met this individual who was, a CEO of a huge accounting firm, and managed thousands of people. He was retired at that point, but he always had something good to say. So I got into very regular discussions with coffee with this individual. We just had a discussion about 3 weeks ago on Zoom, and he's always got this optimistic viewpoint. He'd have some stories of different situations and how he'd handle them, and I could ask deep questions about that, and it's really been a good journey with that mentor. So a mentor can last a long period of time with people, and that can be very helpful from that perspective. And organizations that have that really is helpful. He always talked about his mentor and how he came to Canada and how this person sort of set him up and got him all the way through to where he was the head of the company. The individual that mentored him was at one point the head of this same super large accounting firm. And so it's really good. And seeing that an individual like this who is extremely successful is also very, very humble at the same time. Can be very helpful. You can learn things. So I was always amazed how he knew everybody's name, as an example. And I said, every waiter's name, wherever coffee shop we go, wherever we go for lunch, how do you know this? And he just smiled, and he just showed me his phone, and he asks people their name, and then he writes it down, and then before he goes there again, he just does a quick look and he remembers their names. And so it forces him to do it. I think he's pretty good at remembering them anyways, but that's a good tip, and that's that builds because you're going to build relationships, you've got to know people's names, and that's very helpful. So that was just one little tiny thing that I picked up from him. He said before he always had a contact book in his wallet before there was the smartphones and all of that. So as I mentioned John Wooden before, and I mentioned you can even learn from people that aren't directly involved with John Wooden. He coached in the 60s and 70s. He passed away, I think it was 2010, at the ripe old age of 99, almost 100 years old. And he was active right to the end, coaching people. I remember different leadership authors had meetings with him, trying to learn from him. John Maxwell is one that comes to mind. And he wrote this book, John Wooden, on leadership. This was the one I wrote. He wrote many books on leadership, and he had this success triangle, which he goes into detail in his many books. But this was something he worked out with his players. And you know what? He was very disciplined and very detail oriented, and he had the saying that we often hear, how you do anything is how you do everything. And he was really into the details, like how you tie your shoelace and how well you don't want it to come undone during a game. That's going to be one thing we're not going to worry about. He'd have everything down that the players were confident and ready when they had to show up. And it was really, really something to watch and read that number of YouTube videos as well. So that's just a starting point, but you can pick lots of places where you can find these kind of coaching ideals and something that fits with your personality and your philosophy. And then you can adapt it, adjust it, and make it work for you. But I think wherever you are in a company, you need to be thinking about things. So some fuel for thought. Do you have an example of how our mentors helped you in the past? Think about it. So I just gave my example of how a mentor's helped me. You can have one of your own. You don't want to watch this video and go away and just go on to something else. You want to give it some thought. Take out a notepad, write down some points, give it some thought, and then start applying some of the things that you have learned from this video and other videos. It's not just knowledge, it's how you apply it. What is your favorite coaching example that helped you or someone you know? So there's got to be something there that you can think of where somebody coached you and it really helped you. I could think of a gazillion of them in construction. I could think of them from the apprenticeship side, from the management side. I can think of it from the teaching side where I was actually coaching. You know what? Some people, they don't want to coach you. Some trades, if you're in a trade, the particular journey person or master journey person doesn't want to really show you because it took them that long. But if you ask the questions in the right way and they see that you're really eager to learn and you have a lot of respect for what they did, all of a sudden, all right, so take a look at this. Do this. I'm thinking of bricklaying. Do this, do it like this, and this is how you want to clean off the brick. No, not like that, like this. I can remember Norman coaching me on that. And Norman was a tough guy, but he was also kind of a sweet guy too if you got on his good side. And then all of a sudden, then he would show you everything. And so that would be an example. Have you mentored or coached someone? Now, switch it around. Is there somebody, you may have been mentoring or coaching people and not even know about it. And so think about it. Have you? What did you learn from the experience? What would you do differently the next time? How could you help somebody better? Is there somebody that you think you could help out? In your organization, do you see potential for how mentoring can help the organization, and how could coaching be applied within the organization? Can we change and shift the culture from one of dog eat dog, everybody's on their own, to one of more collaboration, engagement, and learning, and helping others to get better at what they do? And think about your personal life. People get coaches for a lot of things, and you might call some of them teachers, but coaches that would help you to get better, to improve at particular things, whether it's learning an instrument like a piano, or it's a particular, at a gym training you, or whether it is on mindfulness. There is lots of things out there for you to think about on this topic, and for business. So I want to get back to first principles before we close off. A company's purpose is to become the best version of itself. But an organization can only become the best version of itself to the extent that the people who drive that organization are striving to become better versions of themselves. And Tom Peters got this from the Little Big Things book that he wrote. I think it's this one right here that I was pulling it from. He wrote also In Search of Excellence. So he's a thought leader and somebody before the term influencer came up, but has been influencing people for decades and decades, said that. And I think it's true. And so when we talk about at a lower level down, coaching and mentoring, well, this is going to help us as an organization. And in construction, you know what? A lot of companies aren't doing this. This is a competitive advantage. This is an opportunity. This is basically where it should be a threat to other companies or to your own if you're not doing it. But if you flip it around, it's an opportunity. So really, it's obvious in sports. It's not always so obvious in business. But what can we do, and how can we make this work? How can we do this better in construction? I would say one of the things we could do better in construction is look at systems that make us more easily, habitually become more engaged with each other and learning from each other. And then also those with more experience will have more opportunities to make those engagements more enriching and forming more mentoring, coaching, but also learning situations in there. So I'm thinking of Lean Last Planner system as one example right off the top. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. This has been a big topic in all businesses in the developed world, that we have to be better. And how can a company in this day and age really be at its best if it's not handling these core items: diversity, equity, and inclusion? And construction is no angel in this area. We've got a long way to improve. It's a great way to start. Respect for people, that's what it gets down to, and that's how it all ties together. So I hope you've enjoyed this video on coaching and mentoring. And if you want to look at more of my videos, please click subscribe, click comments, leave a comment, notifications. I put up videos all the time. And if you go to my playlist, you click on that little circle face and you go into my playlist, you'll see that I have a lot of different topics, from Microsoft project to construction project management, cost control, introduction to construction, site management, project management tips, techniques, tools, and I hope those are helpful for you as well. I'm Tom Stephenson, wishing you a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.